Geography, history, politics, economy, culture, and daily life behind the headlines. Ukraine is a large country in Eastern Europe that has become a focus of global attention in recent years. To understand the headlines, it helps to know the basics of its geography, history, political system, economy, culture, and everyday life. Ukraine is located between the European Union and Russia. It shares borders with Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary to the west, Romania and Moldova to the southwest, Belarus to the north, and Russia to the east and northeast. It also has a long coastline on the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Ukraine is one of the largest countries in Europe by land area, with wide plains, fertile farmland, forests, and rivers such as the Dnipro, which flows from north to south through the country. Before the recent conflicts, its population was around 40 million people, though many have since left their homes or moved abroad. The capital is Kyiv, a historic city on the Dnipro River. Other major cities include Kharkiv in the northeast, Odessa on the Black Sea, Dnipro in the center-east, and Lviv in the west. The land we now call Ukraine has a long and complex history. In the Middle Ages, the state known as Kyivan Rus was an important center of trade and culture in Eastern Europe, with Kyiv as its capital. Over the centuries, different parts of present-day Ukraine came under the control of various powers, including the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Russian Empire, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Ukrainians developed their own language, literature, and national identity, but often lived under foreign rule. In the early 20th century, after the collapse of empires during World War I and the Russian Revolution, there were attempts to create an independent Ukrainian state, but these efforts were short-lived. In the Soviet period, most of Ukraine became one of the republics of the Soviet Union. This era brought rapid industrialization but also severe hardships. In the early 1930s, a devastating famine known as the Holodomor killed millions of people in Ukraine. During World War II, the country suffered heavy destruction and loss of life as it became a major battlefield between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. After the war, Ukraine was rebuilt as part of the USSR, with large factories, mines, and collective farms. Ukrainian culture and language were present but often constrained by central control from Moscow. Modern independent Ukraine was born in 1991. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Ukrainians voted in a referendum to become an independent state, and the world recognized Ukraine as a sovereign country with its capital in Kyiv. The new state adopted a constitution and developed institutions such as a parliament, called the Verkhovna Rada, and a presidency. Ukraine is officially a republic with a mixed system in which both the president and the parliament play important roles. Different political parties compete in elections, and there have been several changes of leadership over the decades. The 21st century in Ukraine has been marked by protests and political upheaval. In 2004, the Orange Revolution challenged the results of a presidential election that many people believed was fraudulent. Mass demonstrations led to a rerun of the vote and a different outcome. In 2013 and 2014, large protests erupted again, known as the Euromaidan or Maidan movement, after the government suspended preparations for an agreement with the European Union. These protests grew into a broader call for political change, against corruption, and for closer ties with Europe. The unrest eventually led to a change in government. In 2014, the situation became even more serious when Russia annexed Crimea, a peninsula in the Black Sea that had been administered by Ukraine. Armed conflict also broke out in eastern Ukraine, in the Donbas region, between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists. The fighting continued at a lower intensity for years despite multiple ceasefire attempts. In February 2022, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, expanding the war across a much larger part of the country. Cities and infrastructure were attacked, millions of Ukrainians were displaced inside the country or became refugees abroad, and international organizations reported significant damage and casualties. Many other countries imposed sanctions on Russia and provided Ukraine with various forms of support, while diplomatic efforts to end the war have continued with limited success. Ukraine's economy has traditionally been based on a mix of agriculture, industry, and services. The country is sometimes called a breadbasket because of its fertile black soils and large production of wheat, corn, sunflower oil, and other crops. Heavy industry, including steel production, machinery, and chemicals, has been concentrated in the east and south. In recent decades, the services sector and information technology have grown, with Ukrainian engineers and programmers working for international clients. The ongoing war, however, has disrupted many of these activities. Fields, factories, ports, and power plants have been damaged or blocked, and the government has had to devote large resources to defense and humanitarian needs. Everyday life in Ukraine before the war was similar in many ways to that of other European countries, with people in cities living in apartment blocks or houses, commuting by bus, tram, or metro, and working in offices, shops, schools, hospitals, and factories. City centers had cafes, parks, and cultural institutions such as theaters and museums. In rural areas, people were more directly connected to farming and local community life. Since the start of the full-scale war, daily routines have changed dramatically in affected areas. Air raid sirens, power cuts, damaged buildings, and the need to move to safer regions have become part of life for many. At the same time, Ukrainians have organized volunteer networks to support soldiers, displaced families, and vulnerable people, showing strong social solidarity. Ukrainian culture is rich and distinct, even though it has often been overshadowed by larger neighbors. The official language is Ukrainian, which uses a Cyrillic alphabet and is related to other Slavic languages. Russian is also widely spoken, especially in some regions, but the war has affected language use and identity debates. Religion in Ukraine is diverse, with several Orthodox Christian churches, the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, and other Christian, Jewish, and Muslim communities. Traditional music, folk costumes, and dances vary by region, and folk art includes embroidered clothing and decorative painted eggs called paisanki. Literature and the arts have played important roles in expressing Ukrainian identity. Writers such as Taras Shevchenko are national symbols, and contemporary authors, filmmakers, and musicians explore themes of history, memory, and modern life. Ukrainian music includes folk songs, rock, pop, and electronic styles, and in recent years the country's entries in international competitions have drawn attention. Food traditions feature dishes like borscht, a soup often made with beetroot, vareniki, which are dumplings with various fillings, and holubtsy, cabbage rolls. Bread, potatoes, vegetables, and meat are common ingredients, and hospitality is an important value. Ukraine's position at the crossroads between East and West, between the European Union and Russia, has shaped its politics, economy, and security. Many Ukrainians see their country as part of a wider European community, while also carrying their own distinctive culture and history. The future of Ukraine will depend on how the current war ends, how reconstruction is carried out, and how its people and institutions address long-standing challenges such as corruption, inequality, and regional differences. This has been a quick, neutral overview of Ukraine, a country at the crossroads of Europe. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, subscribe for more country profiles and neutral explainers, and tell us in the comments which country or topic you would like us to cover next.